this episode, I want to talk about an amazing feature of Trailblazer operation, which is called nesting. Nesting is the art of running one operation within another operation. And that's usually very helpful when the complexity is increasing. So let's assume that the notify step that normally only sends out an email also creates a notification record. And let's assume further on that those two steps, those two chunks of logic should be reusable. So we want to run that code in maybe 2 or 3 different operations. So let's put that in a separate operation. What I did is I created another file, notify in concepts blog post operation. And in that file, I'm adding 2 steps, send email and create notification. And then the send email step, I simply copied from create, from blog post operation create, and it just sends an email to a blog post moderator. And the second step, create notification, is nothing special. It literally just creates a notification active record model that I also created. I'm going to show that in a minute. And it hands in a bunch of attributes in order to create that row. And just for completeness, we do have this create notifications migration that creates a new table and obviously also a new model. So what people do who don't know that there is a concept called nesting in Trailblazer, they will probably just call the operation manually in a random step. And I've seen that in a bunch of projects. So what they do is they inspect the result object, and if it's true, they will handle the success case, and if it's false, they will go a different way. So they're basically doing the routing manually. So if I add something like erase here, and I run the test, I can see notify failed because of a runtime error that I just triggered. So my manual nesting is working. What most people don't think of is that in the notify operation, the nested one, we're creating a notification object, and probably we want to have that in the outer operation. So what they have to do is they have to assign to the outer context the notification variable from the inner context. And then another problem is that what if the nested notify operation is terminating on the pass fast terminus? So all I'm seeing here is whether or not the notify operation was successful. I mean, there are ways to find out if it ended on the success end or if it ended on the pass fast terminus, but that's a lot of logic that I need to nest this operation. So long story short, there's this beautiful macro subprocess, and you can just hand in the operation name, the operation constant, and you can delete all this routing and logic code, because Trailblazer will take care of executing the operation and routing. And the easiest way to understand that is by looking at a test run. And you can see that after create model, another operation is embedded in our trace, and you can see both steps are executed, and you can see the operation terminating on success, and that will lead the remaining outer operation to continue on the success or the happy path. And now let's say something fails in the notification creation. Let's do another test run. And in our trace, you can see create notification failed. The inner operation terminated on failure, and that led the remaining outer operation to continue on the failure track. And just to show you what that implies, I'm adding a errors step on the failure track. And when I run the test, you can see that the outer errors step is really executed. So Trailblazer, or the operation, takes care of routing the success and the failure path from the inner operation to the outer operation. And there are lots of ways to tweak that, and we're going to look at this in a future episode. And without any configuration, what happens is that Trailblazer will also copy all the new variables from the inner context to the outer context. So I'm adding a new step, inspect context, and I'm looking at the notification variable that is coming from this step or nested operation. And when I run my test, I can see there is a notification model in the context. So that works automatically. So we don't have to do anything. We can just nest and let Trailblazer do routing and context mapping automatically. So whenever you have anything that should be reusable or that just belongs together in a logical group, use nesting, use the subprocess macro, and I'm going to show you how to do variable mapping and how to use the wiring API in a couple of episodes in the future.